Starting. Yes, we
There
are
we
live
go.
right now. There we go. Jim
Yeah.
Feist and Andy Iskoe from Las Vegas, sponsored by Dom DeMarco, 9785 West Charleston. Best pizza, best Italian food, great service, ownership. Everything out there is the best. Andy, you and I have to have lunch there one day soon.
I love it over there. I don't know if it won it, but it should have won it Best of Las Vegas, the annual thing that they have.
Well, the problem with that is they're one shop,
Yeah.
and some of the other shops that
Have
are out there
multiple
have like 4 or
locations.
5 locations. So they have a bigger customer base. So it's kind of unfair. But believe me, for my money, Dom DeMarco's is the best in Las Vegas. Let's
Yeah,
talk about
there are only two places actually that I go for pizza. One on my side of town, which is all the way over in Henderson, and Dom DeMarco's over on the west side.
all right. Andy, this is a pretty quick show, 30 minutes.
I do have one very, very quick announcement that might be of a lot of interest to our viewers and listeners. I'm going to hold it up right now. The football season, I always believe that the 2026 football season starts once the NFL schedule is released, which happened a couple of weeks ago. The second part of that 2.0 start of the season is when the college football and pro football magazines start coming out. And I was over at Barnes and Noble the other day, and there it is. The Athlon Sports is the first one to hit the newsstands, and it's see here. It's 210 pages, covers the 138 teams. I haven't had a chance to check who the 138th team is this year, the team that came up, but it does a good preview. But one thing for people to keep in mind is that, a magazine that comes out like right Memorial Day was probably put together by the beginning of May. So any late news that might have come out won't be in these magazines, but you probably have about 95 to 98% of what you need to know before the season starts.
Now, Greg.
By the way, just let me say, I've got nothing to do with Athlon. I just have to do with college football, and I love it, and I grab up whatever I can as early as I can.
Well, we know that Mark Lawrence is working real hard on his magazine. He digs deep into that.
Indispensable for the information.
When will that be out? That's
normally, the playbook preview normally, and that covers NFL and college together. A lot of statistical information, point spread information. A lot of what Mark does, he picks out like the best spots historically. excuse me, that for this season to play on or against certain teams for like all the 32 NFL and college teams. It's really indispensable. Got a lot of information. It usually comes out somewhere around July 4th. I believe he sends it to the printer the second half of June. And it hits the newsstands. I know that Barnes and Noble is a big carrier of it. I think Books A Million, I think, is one of the ones from down south that carries it. But I think I think a lot of newsstands and or supermarkets that carry magazines. I don't know if, for example, if a place like Walmart would carry it or Target, but I know that like my local Albertsons or whatever carries it, but Barnes and Noble is the main distributor, I believe, and of course here in Vegas, the Gambler's Bookshop.
When does the logical report start?
The Logical Approach newsletter starts with the actually what I call week 0, which is the first weekend that has 4 to 6 games, and then I call it week 0. Week 1 is that lone college week that usually begins by itself before the NFL gets underway the following week.
Give an address or a phone number how the people can order for that, because I'm going to tell you, between the playbook and the logical report, these are things you should be reading each and every week.
I can send them to my website. In fact, I just was doing some work over the weekend updating them. I put up copies of samples of what the news. There are actually 3 newsletters. One that covers college and pro, one that covers NFL teasers specifically, and another that covers trends and tendencies as far as historical performances in various matchups and situations. TheLogicalApproach.com. So logical approach with a THE in front of it. I always say it's almost theological approach without the O, but we can sure use divine intervention at times. TheLogicalApproach.com. I think the page that it'll be on, I'm not set yet to take subscriptions or anything. That'll be in about another 3-4 weeks, but they can go in and click on samples of what we have and it'll show newsletters from last year.
Okay. I'd like to open the show with a non-betting proposition. Just, I'd like to say we lost a real sports hero this week, past week, and Kyle Busch. I mean, it's unbelievable. 41 years old, dies, gets pneumonia.
That's called incredibly suddenly.
Yeah, pneumonia can get into sepsis, which is an infection of your blood. And once you get it, I guess it's really hard to get rid of. You have to catch it before you get it, and it's really sad. Rest in peace, Kyle. You were amazing champion, unbelievable. It's not a sport that I follow, but as a human being, I feel so bad for his family and his friends and the entire racing industry. But these things happen.
I echo those sentiments. And of course, his older brother, Kurt, very successful in NASCAR as well. And they're Las Vegans. I'm trying. Yes. I don't recall exactly which high school they went to here, but longtime contributors community. And Kyle Busch was one of those. In fact, they used the word, I think, on the recap when it first came out, of polarizing. You either loved him or you rooted against him, but nobody could deny his talent. And as is with the most of these athletes that have a high profile and visibility, they are actually very wonderful people behind the scenes doing a lot of charitable work that takes up an awful lot of their time at their own expensive time and their own expenses. And Kyle certainly was one of those who did an awful lot for charities and the community here in Las Vegas and elsewhere that NASCAR reaches.
I'm not sure that you know this. Those thoughts are all fantastic, Andy. Thank you. A friend of the show that would show up at the show many times. I only met this gentleman during this football season. Chris Piper.
I know the name.
Yeah, he passed away a few weeks ago, I think. I don't think anybody really knows. I think he was in his late 60s. People were trying to get a hold of him. They couldn't get a hold of him, and they did a wellness check and found him passed away in his house. It's a big loss to the community because he was really a nice guy. He was in a lot of the contests. Circa had him in their contests a lot. Nice man, and he was so kind. He found out that I had some illnesses, and he was trying to get me products to help me feel better and stuff. And he was very, very generous, warm gentleman. I wish I had known him longer. And it's kind of, this is interesting. At our last show, he said, "You take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the fall. I want you to stay around. I like you." And I said to him, I looked at him and I said, "I like you too, Chris, and you take care of yourself as well." And here it was that he wasn't sick, I was, and I'm still here, and he's gone. It just shows you how fragile life can be. I didn't want to open the show with all this negativity, but it's life. And
it's proper to pay respects when these things happen, especially when, I don't want to say, it sounds weird when I say especially when they happen suddenly, but because it's more of a shock when it happens that way. And it means that, I hate to be, people are cheated out of the extra years that they deserve. It's an unfortunate aspect of life. We all pray that we live long and with good health. It doesn't always go that way. But again, I never met Chris. I've heard him on the radio, and of course, never met Kyle, but followed his career quite a bit as well. And so, yeah, it's always unfortunate that these things happen. May they both rest in peace, and may their memories be blessings.
Yes. I don't know that we should pay tribute to any of these teams that the Knicks are burying because it's ugly and they don't win, they destroy. The Cavaliers were just their most recent victim. Absolutely horrible performance by the Cavs. But I just have to turn it around. Absolutely fantastic performance by the Knicks. The Knicks are just devastating now. Of course, we're waiting for the Spurs and the Thunder to figure out who's going to win that and face the Knicks. In the beginning, everybody would say that the West is so much better than the East, and whoever wins this contest between the Spurs and the Thunder will destroy the East. Well, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. This Knicks team is well coached. They're shooting well. They've got great balance. I happen to think that Brunson is one of the best players in the game. It's just unbelievable how good he is. But the rest of the Knicks, just playing unbelievable. I don't know, the series between the Spurs and the Thunder, that's another story. It's hard. There's a lot to talk about there, and hopefully we'll do that in the next few minutes, Sandy. But the Knicks have been playing outstanding.
Let me give you an idea. Last night in that rout, the Knicks had 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 players saw playing time with a minimum of 6 minutes. So basically half a quarter was it. That's great depth, first of all. And the balance in all 4 games, at least 5 or 6 players were in double figures, and it was balanced. It's not like you had one guy like a Wemby with 34 points. Last night was a perfect example. You had OG, I'll go Anunoby with 17. You had Towns with 19. You had Brunson with 15. Bridges with 15. Shamet with 16, and McBride with 11. You get that kind of balance and that kind of contribution. That makes it very difficult on the defense if you've got to guard or defend that many people who have the ability to put the ball in the hoop. It's a very unselfish team.
Well, I don't know.
That's one of the things I like about them.
We can give a lot of credit to the Knicks, but and I will, because I really think they're good, really good, and well balanced, well coached, having a hell of a year. And this run, I mean, they've won so many games in a row, and they're winning by huge margins. But
I believe it's 11 now.
What the hell's wrong with the Cleveland Cavaliers? That's, man, oh man, they look absolutely horrible. I don't like the coach.
And by the way, that goes back to their series against Toronto when we said the same thing about Cleveland.
Yeah, they didn't. Toronto was not that good, and they won 7 games. And the next series
against Detroit.
Detroit, of course, had the better record, had a home field advantage, home court advantage. That was a 7-game series. I mean, that's a lot of games. They did play a lot of games, and they could have been fatigued, but they never really, except for an occasional game or an occasional half or quarter, they never looked that good. I believe Harden is older and old style and a throwback, and I don't think he can play at the highest level in the league anymore. I'm not criticizing him. I know how great he was. I mean, I can remember the days when he'd score 50 points a game. I mean, this guy was incredible, led the league in scoring many times. But I believe the Knicks are for real. And I believe the Knicks can win this whole thing, especially if San Antonio and Oklahoma City wear each other out. And it looks like they might just do that.
Yeah, I was just doing before I joined you a show down to New Orleans, and we talked about the Knicks and the playoff series, the potential against San Antonio and OKC. And the thing I mentioned about the Knicks is they made a decision. I think it was after Game 3 in Atlanta to have more of the offense go through Karl Anthony Towns, and they have been unbeatable, literally, not figuratively, literally, they've been unbeatable since that Game 4 against Atlanta. And I guess the thing we talked about also that the Knicks made the Eastern Conference Final last year. I think there was Indiana that they lost to, and they fired Tom Thibodeau. And a lot of the criticism of Thibodeau was that he relied too much on his veterans, didn't make use of the youngsters on the team. And so the veterans got very tired late in the season, because I said, look, the Knicks hadn't made the conference finals since 1990, since I think early 2000s. They hadn't made the NBA finals since 1999, and they had taken under Thibodeau. They had taken a few steps each year. Last year, it made it to the conference championship. So I found the firing, although I understand the reasoning, I found it a little surprising, considering the Knicks were had done their best in the playoffs in about 2 decades, and yet James Dolan, the owner, who gets criticized, and who is it? Leon Rose, I believe, who's the GM, get criticized for a lot of the moves that they've made over the years, decided to make the move. The question of Mike Brown, considering where he's been, and he hadn't had all great success over the years, was a little bit surprising, but it turned out to be the absolute perfect decision, because as of right now, you can't do any better than reaching the NBA Finals.
No, and you can't do any better by winning 11 games in a row by the margins they're winning by. It's pretty incredible. I think there's value, and this is my free play for the day, to going out right now and betting the Knicks to win the championship, because Andy, I think you can get about 2-1 on that.
I heard, in fact, I didn't see it, but the folks I do the show with, it's a betting show down out of Baton Rouge. They took a look and they saw projected lines of of Thunder minus 270, Spurs minus 260, which would put the Knicks at plus 210 to plus 220, in that range. I don't know if you can bet it right now, or if you can, I would say, yeah, take the Knicks right now, because I believe when the exact series is known, it won't nearly be that high. I said I'd make the Thunder and the Spurs maybe minus 190, minus 180 or something like that. I do respect those two Western Conference teams and the teams they had a battle to get through to this point. But at the same time, this Knicks team is playing unselfish basketball. I go back to the late 60s, early 70s, when the Knicks beat the Lakers in 2 out of 3 NBA finals. I think from 70 through 73, they were in 3 of the 4 against each other. And that was a team that was very unselfish, great teamwork. They didn't have one superstar. They had a lot of really, really good all-star players, Dave DeBusschere, Bill Bradley. You had, I think, Clyde Frazier. The second one, I think Frazier, I think he may have still been there with Earl Monroe. You had Willis Reed. Of course, we remember that big game with Willis Reed playing through the, I think it was a torn ACL. They didn't know it at that time. They didn't have that stuff. He came out there and warmed up, hit a couple of baskets, and hit the first 2 baskets of the game. And that was all he did. So it was a tremendous crowd there. But the point is, this was an unselfish team. It was coached by Red Holtzman, emphasized defense, finding the open man, and assists are a good thing to get.
Well, I think that the Knicks do have a superstar player in Brunson. I mean, a lot of people don't want to give him that status, but I have for a long time thought that he was one of the best players in the business. And they have a lot of players around him that are really, really good. And I think the coach is doing a good job. He has some pedigree that when he worked with Kerr out with the Warriors, it's working. Whatever he's doing, it's working. Now, granted, people are going to say, well, they had weaker competition in the East. Absolutely true. However, they're now going to have about 8 days of rest. And that has not bothered them too much. Even if they lose the first game at whatever site they lose it, it really wouldn't matter. They're going to get their legs under them, and they very, 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 very balanced. And at this point, they're healthier than either Oklahoma City or San Antonio, because those teams have some injuries. Now, we can talk about Wemby. Now, there's been a lot of 7-foot-plus players come into the league. You can talk about Chamberlain, you can talk about Shaq, you can talk about Olajuwon, people like that were fantastically skilled and large. Wemby is young, 22 years old, not fully developed, not a lot of experience at this level, of course, but he is good. The big mistake I think they're making now, I don't know if it's him that won't listen to what he's being taught, or they're being coached this way. But this young man should be in the paint or near the paint at all times. It affects on the defense. It's a big problem for the other team. And on offense, he can do a lot of things because he's very skilled at passing, at dunking, at getting rebounds, offensive and defensive rebounds. When you put him outside, like at the 3-point line as a guard, I think you're giving up all that. And I think it's very silly. I've seen him do it too many times. Yes, he can hit a 3 every once in a while. It's absolutely amazing. Yes, but that's not how you win games. And I think the last game at home, he did that. And I don't know if it's the coaching or he's just a little stubborn on how he wants to play, or he feels like he's getting beat up, because he is getting beat up. I mean, Hartenstein's is beating him up, and that is the way to beat him, because he is young. He's not fully developed. He's going to get stronger over the years. 22 years old is, if they develop the muscle on him and get his strength up, it's going to be harder to do that to him. But Wemby is an amazing talent. Now, Oklahoma City, champion. They've got the best player in the league according to the data and everything. It could be Wemby. It could be OG,
SGA.
whatever. OGA, yes. But
SGA, yeah.
SGA. The bottom line is they're the defending champs, but they have injuries. And the injuries might be the telltale in this whole thing between these two teams. I personally think unless they can get those injured players out there on the floor, San Antonio will walk away with this thing. It's possible. And because I think it's really equal between, I think it's silly actually that the Spurs are 2 at home or 1.5 at home. And when you go to Oklahoma City, it's 5.5 or 6.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't see it that much of a difference in these two teams.
The only injuries I'm showing right now on the, I guess, quote unquote, the official injury report, which I believe usually comes out the night before the game. So this one actually came out yesterday. AJ Mitchell of, let's see, well, that's all OKC. He has been ruled out for tonight's game against San Antonio. Jalen Williams, Mitchell was with a calf injury. Jalen Williams, this one was from yesterday with a hamstring. He is questionable tonight. So I'm not showing anyone on the injury report for the Spurs.
Not even Fox?
No, apparently he's good to go as far as I can see, because he would normally, and then, these teams get fined if they withhold information now.
They do
not that the amount of the fine means anything to the owners. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket, but you still don't want to.
Right.
It's not a big deal of money until you have to pull it out of your pocket and pay it.
I wouldn't want to pay it, but they don't care. Like you said, it's peanuts to them.
Yeah. My approach to this game is I may end up not doing anything before the game. I think OKC wins because I'm going to say a stupid comment. I don't think Oklahoma City wants to go on the road down 3-2. Well, every team wants to win. Okay. And I don't know that OKC's determination, intensity, focus is any greater than San Antonio's will be tonight. They're both going to go out there. The game starts 0-0. One of them is going to end up with more points than the other. And it depends how the game's played. Do they make sharp shooting decisions, etc. But I do like OKC to win. And again, what that would mean is that San Antonio would go back home needing to win to force a Game 7. OKC will go on the road liking to win Game 6 to avoid a Game 7. So tonight's game, I'm going to probably stay on the sidelines until I get a feel for the game. And hopefully, look, if you did it, I think it was, what was it? One of those games there where maybe it was Game 2. I'm not sure where. I think it was one of the teams got out to a 15-0 lead. I think San Antonio got out to a 15-0 lead and ended up losing by 15. I think that was Game 3, the first game in
Game 3.
Yeah, in San Antonio.
Nobody wants to go down 3-2.
Right. I'm going to look for hopefully San Antonio to get at some point a lead and spurt out to a lead where I can get OKC laying less than what I have to lay before the start of the game.
I think it's a live betting game to me. That's what I'm going to do with it. But I am betting and have bet at more than 2-1 on the Knicks to win the championship. I just like how this is all developing, and these two teams are wearing each other out. I do like that.
The thing with the Knicks,
I feel really bad on another sport. Scotty Scheffler just cannot win. He's finishing second and third every week. I feel bad. I think we should start a GoFundMe for him. This guy is incredibly good. Yes, there's somebody stepping up every week and shooting lights out and doing crazy things. But like last week, Clark and that 60, that was amazing on Sunday. But
the thing that was amazing is that Scheffler and Siwoo Kim, who was the leader. Both shot 65s on Sunday, and neither of them won because Wyndham Clark came from so far behind, but he shot a 60, and that won, I think, by 2 or 3 shots. 30 on the par.
I think he was 28 on the back nine.
Yeah, 28 and 32 on the front.
Andy, I know you and I, when we play, we never.
I can't do that on a miniature golf course.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. I mean, he was red hot, but that was really interesting to watch. That baseball is baseball. We're still, we're going along. We don't talk too much about it because it's so much to dig into. We did have a combined no-hitter the other day.
Last night, yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. But this has been fun, Andy.
By the way, I just want to point out one last thought about the upcoming championship series between the Knicks and whomever. The Knicks don't really have, I know you like Brunson and all that, but I don't know that they especially have one go-to guy that San Antonio has with Wemby and that OKC has with SGA. Because if the Knicks have to take a look at, we're gonna do our best to contain either of those two guys and make the rest of the team beat us, as opposed to the Knicks, who don't have that one really superstar. They got a lot of really good players, and Brunson may be the best, but the Knicks, whoever that player is, and you say it's Brunson, has a lot of support around him, so that OKC or San Antonio has to worry about more than just one big guy who carries a team.
I think when you laid it out earlier, you contradicted that statement. When you go through their lineup and how deep they are,
the Knicks,
and some of those players are playing lights out right now. I disagree. I think they have 4 or 5 guys that can put up 20 any night.
You're talking about the Knicks or the other guys or the other team?
The Knicks.
Oh.
The Knicks.
Yeah.
I think they're very difficult. I think we're underestimating them. Now, I will say this. There's one caveat to my bet and my attitude about it is I don't know how bad these Eastern teams that they beat are.
Yeah.
Because I do know the 2 teams that are heading their way are really good. So that's
by the way, Knicks beat San Antonio 2 out of 3 during the season. That does include that United Emirates championship that doesn't count in the standings, but as far as the players are concerned and the money they got for it counts. So the Knicks beats the Spurs 2 out of 3. They lost 2 games to OKC during the season. There are only 2 meetings. They covered both games. They lost by 3 and they lost by 11. So it's not as though they got blown out by either of these teams during the regular season, even though the number of meetings is very small. At least they, when they were not playing at the level that they're playing now.
Correct. Yeah. It's going to be really, I can't wait till we get there. I think, I hope to God they're all healthy when they get there, and whoever they play, it's a really good series because, watching that Cleveland series was just disgusting.
It was tough. And that's as a fan of the Knicks who was happy with the results. It was still watching that game from enjoyable. I enjoyed it as a fan, but not as a student of the game. Let's say. No,
that's exactly right. I don't know what the hell happened to Cleveland to get that far. I mean, top 4 teams in the business. I mean, they made it that far, but to look that bad was absolutely horrible. Anyway, Andy, thank you very much. This is the Don DeMarco Show. 9785 West Charleston, and we'll see you next week. Salute.